My name is Erik, and I am in 10th grade. We're here today because of an incident on the night of April 19th, 2012. On that night, a vintage black Bueller ran a stop sign and struck Cameron Douglas, causing a concussion and permanently shattering his right knee. The driver, however, merely slowed down for a second before speeding up again and leaving the scene. The question is, who was driving? The car belonged to the father of Adrian Vega, and the partial license plate and paint transfer on the bumper prove that. We have a confession that Adrian was under explicit instructions never to let anyone else drive the car, yet Adrian claims that Tony was allowed to drive that car for the first time in his life simply because Adrian was too excited. Honestly, what teen is going to let someone else drive their car simply because they are too excited? Yet, the evidence does not support the statement that Tony was driving. Quinn Liu's description of the driver matched what Adrian was wearing perfectly, and Tony's clothing, on the other hand, bore no resemblance to that of the driver. We even have the victim himself saying that at the moment of the collision, he looked up and thought that Adrian was the one driving. The defense has tried to suggest that Cameron is simply trying to get at the mayor through Adrian, but Cameron was trying to convey this while he was on the ground in pain. Politics are probably the last thing on his mind. A later search of the car revealed that a business card that had been given to Adrian was found underneath the driver's seat, and Adrian's phone was found in the central console, exactly where a driver would place it. Adrian, however, has attempted to brush aside all the evidence, and in the end this means that someone is lying, Adrian or Tony. Adrian's story, however, is one that is highly improbable. Adrian says that Tony was allowed to drive the car for the first time in his life, but Adrian soon realized that Tony was driving rather fast on such a windy road. Adrian, however, says that she did not really put much effort into trying to make Tony to stop, and simply went back to texting, despite the fact that this was an expensive car, and she was worried that about Tony's speed. Adrian says that Tony then proceeded to take Adrian's hat and phone, and Adrian apparently still did nothing. Adrian says that he then felt a sudden bump and feared that something had been hit. Adrian said that at that point, all it took was a brief argument with Tony to get him to stop the car. Then Adrian took over and drove the rest of the way home, instead of going back and checking to see what had happened. Then, upon arriving home, Adrian apparently lost the keys to the house, even though she had them mere moments before. Tony's explanation of what happened is much more improbable. Tony said that Adrian was texting while driving, and that everything Tony did only seemed to aggravate Adrian, so Tony simply closed his eyes and put in his earbuds. At least he gives an explanation as to why he did not see Cameron Douglas, who was wearing a bright headlamp, or hear Quinn Liu, who yelled, "Look out," as opposed to Adrian's story. Tony, however, did say that he felt a large bump and asked Adrian what had happened, but Adrian got defensive, so Tony waited till he got home so he could get some sleep for his volunteer work early the next day. It is clear that Adrian was driving, but the defense has also tried to explain how Adrian might not have known that someone had likely been hit. However, there were a multitude of different warnings that should have served as an indication to Adrian.
30 seconds.
Adrian ran a stop sign, which automatically increases the chance of an accident. Also, Cameron was wearing a bright headlamp, which was designed to attract the attention of drivers. The lamp was fully functional, and the dark night would only have created greater contrast. Also, Quinn Liu shouted a warning, which should have alerted any driver, and there was a large bump so great that even Tony felt it.
Time.